Hi, I'm Georgia Lieneman and welcome to Friday 5 at 5. Central Coast residents are in disbelief after State Parliament's upper house yesterday voted down a bill to protect drinking water on the Central Coast. The bill aimed to replicate similar protections to water catchments in the Sydney and Illawarra regions. It was brought to the House by the Greens' Abigail Boyd in response to the threat to residents' drinking water from contamination by the proposed Wallara 2 coal mine. Many locals made the trip down to Macquarie Street to rally outside Parliament House and plead with politicians to support the bill. By midday, their hopes had been dashed and emotions escalated.
Water, not coal! Water, not coal!
I'm a little bit cranky this week because I'm hearing that Labor aren't on board with the bill, even though they have introduced almost the same bill previously.
Let the politicians know that we are, as local people, we're really concerned that they are approving the Wallara 2 coal mine, and we are very concerned about what that means for our water.
But firstly, they're going to risk our water catchment. They intend to use our water and then apparently recycle it and put it back into our water supply. Also, I think there's some risk of land collapsing, subsidence, also coal dust. The list goes on. I've got a 7-year-old grandson and I don't want this on the coast for him and his future.
Why are we destroying the habitats of our native animals? Shame!
Should this be happening? It's happened nowhere else in the world. Why is it happening on the Central Coast? Why are they picking on the Central Coast?
You know, they gave a couple of reasons, and mainly was around the compensation point, but, you know, I don't really buy it. I think it's quite flimsy. I understand that, you know, they've got a little bit of soul searching to do as a party and to work out what their position is when it comes to coal. And, you know, whether they're actually going to be bold enough to say we don't need coal. There are jobs in lots of other industries that we could be fostering. And there are alternatives to coal, but there aren't alternatives to water.
Meanwhile, the Gossas Mountain fire continues to burn and has grown to over 170,000 hectares. The fire has already led to the evacuation of animals from the Australian Walkabout Park, and staff at the Australian Reptile Park have also initiated plans to evacuate animals if conditions deteriorate further.
For the first time realised that we actually are the gateway between the fire and the Central Coast. If it's going to reach the coast, it has to come through us. So we have to do everything we can to make it possible for the fireys, first of all, hopefully, to get through us and out the other side and stop the fire from getting to us. Or if it does get to Walkabout Park, that we can actually use the resources that the community's been helping us put together right here to stop it in its tracks.
Court proceedings for the case brought by the Central Coast Council against the Terra Verde and the Environmental Protection Authority over the Mangrove Mountain waste tip commenced in Sydney's Land and Environment Court this week. Both parties agreed that the 3.5 weeks set aside for the hearing was not sufficient and agreed to continue the hearing into 2020, with the judgment expected to be handed down around the middle of next year.
Well, the community's been looking forward to this moment for quite a while. The hearing period of 3 weeks commencing this week has finally arrived, and we've been here for the days so far. Now, they're still in their opening statements, both sides, the barrister representing the landfill operator Verde Terra and today the barrister representing Central Coast Council. I think it's clear even from the opening statements that the lines are drawn, and we've got a sense of, as community representatives sat in the gallery, a sense of what it is this case is going to be about.
The Wyong Hospital branch of the New South Wales Nurses and Midwives Association are calling for 3 extra nurses to be rostered on day shifts and in the emergency department. The nurses rallied at the hospital this week to air their concerns over staff shortages. The association's General Secretary, Brett Holmes, said the impacts were being felt most in the emergency department.
Really, they're not getting the care that they deserve and that they need.
But Umina PCY boxer Sam Goodman has retained his unbeaten record after he toppled Indonesia's Sunardi Gamboa in the Tasman Fighters National Boxing Series. The win sees Goodman make it 6 from 6 from making his pro debut. And in cricket, Lizaro Arimba remain undefeated in Central Coast Cricket Association's first grade competition following their latest win over King Kambura Voka. In the women's T20 competition, Northern Power Orange sit alone atop the ladder as the only undefeated side still in contention after their clash with Southern Spirit last weekend. And in football, the Central Coast Mariners are hoping to bounce back in their clash with new club Western United at the Central Coast Stadium on Sunday. The Mariners suffered their second 3-1 loss in 2 weeks against Adelaide United last Saturday, and so Sunday's game is now a must-win game for the Mariners if they are going to stay in touch with the leaders.
This afternoon, and Silvera's there.
Good header that by Galafoco, and it's Samuel Silvera into the box, challenged by Maroney. Kurt Ams says penalty. Big chance for the Mariners this. Mila Juric fires it past his own, and the Central Coast, with their first effort on goal after a rather shaky start, have the early lead. And Halloran's pace burns off Clisby and gets there ahead of Fox. Opseth in the middle, it's 3. Beautifully worked again, and the Norwegian has his first A-League goal, and that could be a hammer blow just before the break to the Mariners. 3-1 Adelaide. What an occasion that always is. Forward by Juric, Murray's header, then Matt Simons, good save by Paul Izzo to tip it over the crossbar and keep Adelaide's 2-goal cushion intact.
And another good save, but one that's, where he doesn't have to stretch.
Kurt Ams brings proceedings to a close. It's 3 straight wins for Adelaide United. First time they've done that since their title-winning campaign in season 15-16.
That game kicks off at 6 p.m. on Sunday, and the team will be buoyed by the signing of experienced Brazilian forward Jair Eduardo Brito da Silva. And finally, the 2019 Archibald Prize Gallery Tour has landed in Gosford. The exhibition is being housed at Gosford Regional Gallery and will remain there until mid-January. This is just the 3rd time in the illustrious portrait competition's history that the tour has come to the Central Coast, and art lovers are encouraged to take advantage of this rare opportunity. The winning portrait by Tony Costa is of Australian artist and Zen Buddhist Lindy Lee. Costa said his portrait of Lindy sought to capture her focus by keeping the colour minimal to avoid any visual noise. Central Coast artist Jordan Richardson was also a finalist with his portrait of political journalist Annabelle Crabb. Richardson said he wanted to strip her of her iconic artefacts like her sunglasses and rings and just show her powerful gaze. He sought to show Annabelle as a living example of how femininity and strength are not mutually exclusive. Well, that's all for this week. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next week for Friday's 5 at 5.